I hope you can hear me now. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Julie and I'm a final year medical student from University Putra Malaysia, Sedang. And not to forget, Salam Ramadan and Selamat Berbuka to those who are celebrating. So before I start with the sharing session today, I really want to take this chance to congratulate MMI Malaysia for setting up this wonderful initiative, which I think is a really good platform for medical students to share their experiences and help our juniors to prepare better for their electives. But as we all know, we are all in this midst of global pandemic COVID-19. Unfortunately, a lot of things, a lot of plans to go abroad has to be cancelled at the moment. But this sharing is aimed to actually help our juniors, especially those in preclinical ones, to have an idea of what is it like traveling abroad for electives. And perhaps some of the tips I'm sharing later might come handy as well, even if you're traveling locally for your electives. Well, I think I should show you some of the slides while I explain. Yep. Hope you can see my slides now. Okay. Well, let's kickstart this session with some slides. Okay, before I start, if you have any questions for me, please feel free to drop them at the comment section. I'll come back to them before the session ends. Okay, here's the slides. I actually went to Austin for my electives in June to July 2019 last year for approximately 4 weeks duration. So when I was there, it was during the winter season, one of the coldest periods in Australia. The temperature can go to as low as 3 to 4 degrees Celsius in early mornings, and when the sun is out, it could get raised up to around 15 or 16 degrees Celsius. So it's best for all travelers to Australia to wear layered clothing. Yep. Okay, here's the outline of my presentation today. It will include some of the technical parts like introduction to Austin Hospital, my experience doing clinical placement, living in Melbourne, traveling tips, and some of the things about application and what I feel about the whole entire trip to Melbourne for 1 month, and some of the useful tips. Let's move to the first one, which is introducing to you Austin Hospital, Melbourne. So Austin is located in Heidelberg, Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. It's established in 1882, rebuilt in 2005. So Austin has a very large compound and it comprises of 5 main buildings, including the first one. This is the Austin Tower, the main tower, where most of the surgical and medical departments are here. And on its left, there's a Mercy Hospital for women, which is for OBGYN. And on its right, there's an oncology tower, also known as the Olivia Newton-Johnson Tower. So there's another part of the hospital that you have to take the shuttle bus to travel around 10 minutes distance to Rehab Hospital and Rehab Center. So some of the surgical departments like endocrine surgeries are in Rehab Hospital, while Rehab Center is mainly for aged care, geriatric care, and also psychiatric care. Before I forget, Austin is famous for some of the specialties like liver transplant, organ transplants, psychiatry, and also spinal surgery. So for those who are interested in such disciplines, you may really consider Austin as your destination for electives. We'll move to my experience being a clinical student doing placements in Austin. Okay, so we are asked to fill in 3 departments of our choice. And the first department that I applied to was actually accident emergency, followed by general surgery, general medicine. But at last, I was offered a place in general surgery under the Department of Hepatopancreaticobiliary team, which is also the team that is in charge of liver transplant unit. So it's really amazing to follow such team to perform some of the very special surgeries. The activities that I got to experience there, including observing surgeries. So it's not just about the special surgeries, but also some of the more common procedures like hernioplasty, appendicectomy, cholecystectomy as well. And the good thing is you will be allowed to scrub in and actually assist the surgery alongside with the surgeons. Let me tell you one of the most memorable experience surgery that I have got to scrub in, which is the Whipple's procedure. Yep, HPB is in charge of some of the specialized surgeries such as Whipple's surgery, hepatic resection, and organ retrieval. I was allowed to scrub in and assist the surgery Whipple's procedure, which is the surgery for head of pancreatic cancer removal. So the surgery is a very complex one and it takes up a long time. I came to hospital at around 8 something to scrub in and join the surgeons for pre-op discussions that day. So during the discussion, they will teach you some of the things about the anatomy and the surgical procedures. Later, the surgery started at 9. But the surgery is really long that I had to leave the hospital only at around 10 o'clock at night. So there was around 12 hours of standing and observing surgeries. But I would say it's really a rare experience. It's something that I would not have chance to do back in Malaysia. So during the surgery, apart from actually observing, I was allowed to help retracting the wound and also help with some suture cutting. And also the surgeons sometimes will teach me how to recognize the structures and anatomy while the surgery is ongoing. And clinics. So surgical clinics is one of the best thing in Austin. So here's a photo of the surgical clinic. And even as an elective medical student, I was allowed to take up a clinic room on my own and given file of the patient's number to call the patients in, see the patients on my own, taking history, physical examinations, and come up with a simple management plan before actually seeing the surgeon and discussing about the case with him. So I'll go to see the consultant in another room, having some Q&A session, and eventually the surgeon will bring me back again to see the patients and ask me to perform some OSCEs. For example, like explaining what are the post-op complications, post-op care for patients, and sometimes describing the risk factors of diabetes. And to me, it's quite a brand new experience because it's so rare for you to have a one-on-one teaching back in your home university. Next, followed by ward rounds, ICU rounds, reviewing patients from other wards, and lastly, free CMEs. For those who do not know, it is continuous medical education sessions meant for the healthcare workers in Austin Hospital. A typical day would start at 8 and end by 5, but it also depends on what you want to learn on the day. If you want to join a long surgery, it's okay for you to stay up to late night. But if you want to be flexible and take some time to go out and explore, they are also fine. So you don't have to be too stressful about it. Well, let me bring you to some of the photos I took in Austin. The first one is the photo of how the liver transplant surgeon preparing the liver for the recipient. So it's really exactly how it looks like when the surgeon are performing this cleaning. I was lucky enough to have to be allowed to observe one of these organ retrieval surgeries in Austin. So there was this patient who was also the donor, pronounced brain dead in ICU. He was transferred immediately to the theater. Different multidisciplinary surgical teams, such as the cardiothoracic team, renal and liver team, actually came down and helped into retrieving some of the organs like lungs, liver and kidneys to be donated to another patient. Before donating, they also have to go into another room to prepare the organs and to be transferred to another hospital. Yeah, so for those who want to experience an organ transplant procedure, maybe Austin is one of the best destinations that you could choose. Okay, here are two photos of me joining CMEs in Austin. On the left, this is the intern CME, which is the CME for like the house officer. And on the right, it was a central lecture for everyone in Austin. Sometimes they would also invite special guests, like during my time, they invited the inventor of HPV vaccine, the Gardasil inventor, to come to Austin and share with us his experience discovering and developing these vaccines and also the effectiveness of it. During special occasions like this, we'll be given free food, healthy meals like sandwiches, pastas, pastries, and sometimes even free wine will be provided. So by joining these CMEs, you can also learn and alongside save up some money for your lunch. Okay, here's the student common room. It's pretty lovely for Austin to prepare such a spacious room for all students in Austin to have rest and mingle around. Yep. You see, in the student room, they do not only provide you tables and chairs, but also ping pong balls, snooker table, and a pantry with fridge and microwave. So you can bring your prepared home cooked food here to the student room and heat it up during a rest hour. And here's the 24-hour free access library. Alright, we'll move to the next part, which is about living in Melbourne. So I'll cover 3 parts, which include accommodation, public transport, and some of the convenient shops and stores. About the accommodation, I choose to stay at the medical students' quarters, which only takes me 3 minutes walk from my hostel to the main tower of Austin. It's super convenient, and it costed me around 220 Aussie dollars per week. So I stayed there for 4 weeks duration. I actually did also research around for some of the options around Austin, but I found out that even Airbnb was not cheap as well. And medical students quarters is certainly the best choice for students who are doing electives in Austin. Because during early mornings in winter, you will find it such a blessing for you to not needing to take a public transport traveling from far away to the hospital. Okay, about public transport. In front of the hospital, there is a train station known as the Heidelberg train station, which is 5 minutes walk from the hospital. If you want to travel to the city, you can take a 40 minutes train and arrive at Flinders station. While the nearest bus station is only 5 minutes walk away from the hospital. And when you arrive in the city, you could take the free tram to stroll around the city, and go everywhere. About shops and stores. If you want to get your groceries, Coles supermarket is just 15 minutes of walking distance away from the hospital. And laundry services is very near as well, followed by restaurants and pharmacy. Okay, for those who are a fan of fitness people and you do not want to skip your gym day, then maybe you can subscribe to a 24-hour anytime fitness gym, which is also located on the street 10 minutes away from the hospital. Okay, here are some of the photos of the room that is provided in medical students' quarters. These 2 photos, I got it from my seniors, Dr. Celine's website. Inside the room, they will provide you with a sofa, table, chairs, a big wardrobe, and also a very thick and comfy bed coming with a pillow. And another special feature of the room is that there is this inbuilt basin mirror for every room, so it's very convenient for you to brush your teeth and wash your face early in the morning. Inside the quarters, there is also a kitchen equipped with oven, stove, microwave, fridge, and utensils. So there was also a TV room and toilets with heater as well. Okay, let's move to this. So here are some of the photos of the Heidelberg station. You can see how near it is for you to travel from Austin Hospital to the station. And here's a photo of Flinders Street Station in the city. Alright, about eateries and food. If you want to save up, you can always cook. So you can buy the groceries from Coles and cook on your own. A typical home cooked meal would cost you around 2 to 3 Aussie dollars. While if you're lazy to cook, you can also get a frozen pack meal which will cost you around 3 to 7 Aussie dollars. While a typical hospital meal will cost around 7 to 10 Aussie dollars. So here's the photo of how the cafe in hospital looks like. Apart from main meals that they are serving, so for main meals they are not just serving Western food but also Japanese food, Asian food, Thai food, even Vietnamese food and Chinese food. And there is also this kiosk that's selling pastries, cakes, and high quality coffee. So there's a fun fact here. Melbourne is said to be country that has the best coffee in the world. So even if you're not a coffee people, I would recommend you to try out their coffee and try out Austin Hospital's coffee when you are there. It's not so expensive, around 3.5 Aussie dollar for a good high quality coffee. And restaurants. Unfortunately, if you really want to dine out, it would be quite expensive for you to eat. You have to pay around $10 to $15 for each meal. But the cheapest meal that you can get is an example, this pizza. I got it around 5 Aussie dollar from the city, and a huge portion of pizza. And if you are a girl with small eater, then maybe you could share a big portion of meal with your friend, because their main meal is usually quite in a big portion, and that would be a good news to you. Alright, let's proceed to the fun part, which would be traveling. So I got to travel and explore these three parts of this Melbourne city, which includes the very happening city and the Great Ocean Route, which will take you around 4 hours of drive from the city to Great Ocean Route. Lastly, Mount Buller, which is a snow mountain to build snowmen and skiing. It will also take you around 4 hours of drive. Okay, let me show you some of the beautiful photos. So here's how it looks like in the city. There are a mixture of old architectures, historical buildings, and also modern architectures. So you got to have a taste of the both worlds. I would recommend you to have a stroll in the city during beautiful sunset evenings, because during evenings the whole city will be in this romantic purplish gloom. So it feels really romantic to travel around the city. And if you are fans of arts, then you will really love Melbourne as well, because they are having this local art market, especially during weekends, which you could get all these handicrafts, artworks, and also books. Mural art is also a special attraction in Melbourne, and followed by theatre. So if you're a theatre person, then Melbourne has a lot to offer to you. During my time, there was this show, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, ongoing, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to join. These are the photos of State Library of Victoria and Chinatown. And this one, I got to buy a ticket and join a Victorian Opera, which is their late night music, and another photo of Street View, National Art Galleries. It's good for you to explore the National Art Galleries. It's free admission. Okay, here are some of the art stays away from the city, including the Brighton Bath Boxes and St Kilda, which has a lot to offer, scenic views, and also, if you're lucky enough, you can get to see some of the penguins for free at St Kilda. Okay, this is a photo of my friend and I doing one of the craziest things, which is renting a car and taking turns to drive for around 650 kilometers to Great Ocean Route for sunsets, chasing sunsets, sunrises, looking at some of the very beautiful nature parks, ocean view, waterfall, and lastly, lighthouse. But if you are a fan of extreme sports, then do not miss out their snow mountain activities. So what my friend and I did, we signed up a private lesson to learn how to ski through an agency. We took the bus around 4 hours duration up to the snow mountain. We got to learn how to wear all these very heavy equipments and got to ski a little during the 3 to 4 hour session. Although most of the time we are too clumsy and we were just falling down and getting up, falling down and getting up. But nonetheless, it's still a very fun experience. Let me tell you how can you apply for a seat in Austin. What are things that you need to know? The most important thing that you are concerned about will be the fees, of course. It will cost you around 100 Aussie dollars per week, which is approximately 300 Malaysian ringgit, and you have to apply for a minimum of 4 weeks. Well, how to apply? It's pretty easy. Don't worry. Just check out their website, which I will attach a link in this post later. and email the coordinator. The email is provided in the website as well. It's quite simple to apply because the coordinator has listed down the documents and also the instructions that you need to follow. What are the documents required? Of course, a supporting letter from your dean, a basic tourist visa is sufficient, plus the following. I got it from a website, including a vaccination proof, police check, you can apply from local PDRM website, medical indemnity insurance, also for free on website, and personal travel insurance, which I applied from AIG, and a proof of English language competency. Even if you don't have IELTS or TOEFL qualification, it's alright, because they also accept our certification that we received during SPM English. Our SPM English is also equivalent to Cambridge O-Level, which is a 1119. So that certificate is also sufficient enough. And lastly, a CV or resume. So just include some of your backgrounds and highlights of your achievements or involvement in medical school. They don't really look at your academic achievement, I think, so don't worry too much about that. And most importantly, how early should you start applying? I would say at least 1 year prior to your commencement date, but the earlier the better, of course, because some of the hospitals like Royal Melbourne Hospital, it requires the applicants to apply as early as 18 months prior to their commencement date, while Austin will ask you to apply around 8 to 12 months prior to the date. Well, we have arrived at the last two sections of my sharing today, which is what I feel about the trip. There's always things that you can learn apart from the technical skills and knowledge from the electives itself. And here are the two lessons that I think have left great impression on me. Okay, this is actually a section that my friend suggested me to add in. Okay, let's talk about the first one, which would be the encouraging one who grows the encouraging culture. I find the working culture in Austin quite different from our home hospitals. There is this registrar, Mr. Henry, that I got to tag along during my 4 weeks there. He also came to Malaysia for his electives during his medical school years. If I'm not mistaken, it was in JB. So his experience wasn't that pleasant, actually. He described to me as a big shock because what he said, from what he observed, the working culture here is certainly not as encouraging as what they have in Australia. Instead, the toxic hierarchy system is a serious thing in Malaysia. It was common for him to see the junior staff like house officers or medical students being belittled or scolded during daily practices in the ward. The whole environment is not as healthy for the patients as well. Then, from my perspective, Austin is really offering a very different, a very loving and accepting, inviting environment. Everyone is trying to be as friendly as possible to everyone. I feel really comfortable working with the staff in Austin, learning from them, even though I am really new to the environment. I would say they are really welcoming. And you can really feel the love and respect they have, not just for the patients, but also for every healthcare staff like social workers, occupational therapists, and physiotherapists. And they will come into consensus and come up with a best care plan for the patient. Well, another thing that I think is worthwhile for me to tell is that in Australia, they don't address each other by their title like Dr. Henry, Mr. Henry. Instead, they will ask you to call them by their first name. So instead of calling Mr. Henry, I'll just have to call him Henry. It's really a friend approach, and it's the same even for the patient as well. For instance, during clinic sessions, the consultants, after calling the patient's name and card, they will actually walk out of the clinic and wait for the patient even at the corridor before the patient steps into the clinic, just to greet the patients from afar. that we shake hands and invite patients into clinic and start the conversation by asking how was their day and how is he coping with his life, work, and family before moving to the medical issues. Maybe it was because this friendly manner, friendly approach that they are using, I rarely feel any uneasiness from the patient side. And yeah, surely the rapport is deepened and patients are readily express what they feel about the condition and what are they seeking from you. I was thinking it would be really good if we can bring back such culture and practice into our home setting. And to quote what Dr. Henry has said, only harmonious workplace can produce great caring healthcare staff, inquisitive students, and most importantly, happy and healthy patients. They have really inspired me to be reminded to not succumb to the working culture that I'm in, that I'm so numb to and so used to, but instead trying to be someone who upholds the positive attitude to help grow an encouraging, conducive learning environment. All right, the next lesson would be always be ready to explore and embrace the challenges or surprises. This trip to Australia has shaped my mind in some ways and made me realize it's the process that matters the most. Having a great trip doesn't equate to having checked in at all the tourist attractions, but instead it should be a trip that helps you cleanse your mind and give you an opportunity to build a new view on the world. We tourists can sometimes be too particular with the fixed schedule that we have for ourselves, but to travel for almost a month in a foreign country, a lot of things can go haywire and unexpected. For instance, there was this one midnight that I traveled all alone to the city to explore the city on my own. I missed out the boarding time and had to wait for another 40 minutes during midnight for another train. Instead of feeling so frustrated, I couraged up to actually initiate a conversation with a police officer working at a train station. And guess what? It turns out to be a fruitful conversation and a very memorable experience to me. So we were exchanging our views and some of the facts of our countries and also sharing some of the hopes we have for the future. Sometimes a seemingly unfortunate event can actually turn out into a special circumstances. So it's really crucial to keep that in mind. Be ready to explore and embrace surprises. There's always a way to maximize the experience in that particular moment that you're in. Okay, I think I have to move to the last slide, which is some of the tips that I find helpful to me and hopefully will be a guidance to you as well. All right, about application, I can't stress how important it is to do research and apply earlier, no matter where you are going to local or overseas, because it's never too early to plan for electives. To be honest, I started to craft my idea for my elective as early as my time during first year. And I'm glad that I did that because it helped me to anticipate for what are the things that I have to prepare and to ensure that I do not miss out the opportunities and dates. So it will be really a big relief to have things planned out before coming into clinical years, especially 4 years when you're so busy caught up with all your clinical postings, because the process of applying to electives can be very daunting sometimes. So here's my tip: plan earlier. Next, we'll move to traveling tips. Okay. Get a free tourist guidebook at the main tourist attraction sites such as Federation Square. Because in this booklet that they provide to you, they will list down a list of events, programs, or shows that's ongoing during that season, and sometimes attached with promotions and coupons or vouchers that will help you save up some money. And Google Map is really reliable and sufficient enough for you. You do not need to especially download any apps to help you travel around, navigate you. It's convenient and safe to actually travel around in Melbourne. But the thing is, you need to get their Myki card, which is the touch and go card like the one you have in Malaysia. It's easily available in all train stations. And the third tip is my favorite part. To spend some time, go solo. No matter you're coming in groups or coming individually, it's always good for you to spare a few days to explore a city and suburbs all on your own. Because the experience would be so much different when you're on your own as compared when you're traveling in groups with your friends. You do not need to constantly structure your conversations in your mind. Instead, bearing all your attention to notice some of the detailed architectures of buildings around you, the vibe around you, or people walking, talking beside you, observing them in a coffee shop, and reading some random posters, or even initiating a conversation with a local like shopkeeper, security guards, which will offer you a very personalized experience. So just spend some time to go solo and experience the city all on your own, feel the beauty and the vibe. That's definitely a way to create your very own personalized and memorable experience. And lastly, consider a trip to Sydney. My friend and I extended our trip to Sydney for around 4 days, 3 nights, which has costed us an additional of 1,000 Malaysian ringgit. It's pretty cool to explore another city since you have already traveled so far such a long way to Australia. And lastly, miscellaneous, which is the language. As we all know, Aussie locals have a very different accent, so don't feel bad for needing time to catch up with their accent as you are learning something new. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Some of us actually needed at least 2 weeks to finally being able to listen clearly and convey our message in a manner that the locals understand. So don't be too harsh on yourself. Give yourself some time to adapt. But there are always tips to help you cope with that, which is looking up for videos by Aussie YouTubers on YouTube to compare Aussie, British, and also American English, and try to familiarize yourself with their language and also some of the local slangs used. Alright, I think that's the end of my very lengthy session today. I will now open to the floor for questions. Just give me some time. I'll see what are the questions for me. Is there any questions for me now? If there is, I can answer it. If no, then I think we can end our session today. Sounds like there are no questions at the moment. Maybe my sharing is sufficient enough. Okay, I saw them now. Okay. There's this question from Alisa. How early did you begin applying? So I applied approximately 10 months prior to my commencement date. And is there a free Wi-Fi in the hospital? Yep, surely. There's also free Wi-Fi in your hostel as well. And the third question would be, are there any research opportunities for elective medical students? For this one, I'm not very sure because we'll only be there for a pretty short period, which is 1 month. But maybe you could always try to initiate discussion like this and ask the registrar you're working with if they could provide you a chance. And what are we allowed to do as medical students at a hospital? So it's pretty free for you to travel around in the hospital and experience different things, and the staff are all very helpful. You are allowed to clerk patients, perform physical examinations even without supervision, but of course after asking permissions from the patients and also from the consultants that you're following. And some of the procedures that I was allowed to do was inserting CBD, the urinary catheter, on a patient, and also cutting sutures, helping with some skin retractions when the surgeons are performing surgeries. And also one thing, I got to experience how to move around, operate the laparoscopic camera during surgery as well. Of course, with the surgeons trying to guide me. And thirdly, do you find it difficult to interact with patients there in Austin? The main difficulty that we'll be facing is actually not about the knowledge gap or anything. It's about the language, because they have this very local and strong accent that we Malaysians are not that used to be. So it might be difficult during the first or second week, and some might feel a little intimidated, but it's really common for you to feel uncomfortable in a brand new environment no matter where you are going. So just give yourself some time, maybe being proactive in conducting casual conversations with the patients or doctors aside from working. That will maybe help you to build up your confidence and help you familiarize with their accent. And here's a question from Gary. Are there any other medical students there, international or local? During my stay, there was another medical student from Malaysia as well. She was from COCMS under neurosurgical department. But apart from that, there were no other international students during my time. So it's sad that I did not have chance to make new friends from other countries. But what my senior had experienced 5 years ago, when she was there also during this winter season, there were a few of elective students from other countries as well. I guess it depends on the timing and also the luck. Probably this would be the last question from me, from my junior Siron. Okay, how long did I spend my time there, staying there? I spent around 35 days in Australia, 30 days in Melbourne, and 31 days in Melbourne, and 4 days, 3 nights in Sydney. Okay, I think that's all for my Q&A session today. But feel free to drop your questions if you still have any of them, and I'll come back to answer them if I have time. Yeah, I think that's all for today. Oh, I just received news that I still have some questions for me. Sorry, give me a minute. Okay, 3 more questions. Did you make friends with any international students? Oh, sadly, I did not. Instead, I got to make friends with the interns there. From Sonia again. Is it alright if you could go over the insurance process that is commonly found in requirements? It is a very new thing for me. Okay, sure. Alright. Yes, here are the 2 insurance requirements from Austin. One is the medical indemnity insurance, which covers some of the malpractice. And another one would be personal travel insurance, just in case you need any medical attention during your stay. So these are 2 very separate insurance requirements. The first one, you could just simply get it from the website MIPS, which is the website to provide medical students with free medical indemnity insurance provided in Australia. Just look at our website, apply it, and get it for free. And the personal travel insurance would be the one which I mentioned, which is the basic tourist visa. I applied it through an agency, which costed me around 25 ringgits and got me around 3 days to receive my visa. I hope I've made it clear. And another one from Sally. Hi, how did you apply? Did you apply to any hospitals or only to Austin? Actually, I only applied to Austin because it's pretty fast for me to get a response for them. And I did try to apply to hospitals like Royal Melbourne Hospital as well, but unfortunately, the placement was full at the moment. So the only choice left for me was Austin, but fortunately, I got to get a placement in Austin. Okay. Any other questions for me? All right, I think that's all for the Q&A session. So here's again my last slide. Before I end, I want to say thanks to MMI Abroad and special thanks to Joyce, my friend who connected me with MMI, and also credits to Dr. Celine's blogspot. So I will share with you a link to her blogspot later if you want a clearer picture of how it feels like being a student in Austin. And lastly, stay safe and stay healthy, everyone. Best wishes to you and have a good night.